Well, welcome to Noel's World of Whiskey, and kind of excited tonight because I am going to get a chance to do a review, and this is another whiskey like I'd say has been one of my number one whiskeys through the years, or even what I call an old favorite. This is a more recent whiskey that I was introduced to, and yet I'd seen it, I'd seen the name, I took maybe notice of the name and always had it in the back of my head, but really didn't know much about it. And a few years ago, I was introduced to it, I'd say 3-4 years ago, and I'm probably more excited about it today because of what this company is doing. And here it is, and this is the 15-year-old. What I'm going to say is that Tamdhu was mothballed in, I believe it was 2011? Ian McLeod's, I think it was 2009, 2011 Ian McLeod Distillers purchased it. Now Ian McLeod Distillers owns Glengoyne. And the interesting thing is that the company that actually owned Tamdhu also owned Glengoyne. And of course that's Edrington. But this goes back to the days of Highland Distillers. That was pre-Edrington. So now they have actually probably put Tamdhu under the limelight. Now nobody would really know much about Tamdhu. It was a very, very good whiskey, well sought after because it was used in so many blends. Because it had body, it was rich. And Highland Distillers did do a lot of sherry finishing. So what Ian McLeod has done in the short time they've owned it, since 2011, they started with a 10-year-old, they went to the 12-year-old, that was the one I was introduced to, and I was impressed. And I don't know if it might have been a 43, I don't think it was a 46. And then they came out with this guy here, and that might have been 2019, somewhere around there. Probably didn't get over here until 2020. And now they have the 18, which I was able to sample over there in Scotland. Now, traveling from, we were in Inverness and traveling to Elgin, taking that junction, south, A96 south there. You go by so many distilleries. I mean, you're heading south of Elgin, you've got Glen Elgin, you've got just south of that Longmorn, you go by the old Colburn distillery, which has been mothballed. They're using it for warehousing now. You keep going, you're going to eventually, BenRiach, we missed BenRiach. That's just south of Elgin. But as you head to Rothes there, good Lord, you come into Rothes and you've got Forsyths, the famous people who build stills and distillery equipment. In fact, we got the stills up here at Sheller Point Distillery and also down in Victoria at Macallon's. Those stills had to come all the way across the Atlantic. I think they went through the canal, the Panama Canal, and came up the coast here. But anyways, and then of course you've got Grant, Glen Grant, which I'm a fan of. Beautiful gardens there, by the way. You've Glen Rothes. And you head south there, you're in Craigellachie Distillery on one side, that's John Dewar's of course. On the other side you got Macallan's, who did own, or Edrington that owns Macallan's, and they used a lot of this in their blends. And it was Cutty Sark, and when they owned Cutty Sark, and the famous grouse. And they own several other blends there too. But you keep going south of Craigellachie, and you go through Aberlour. We stopped in Aberlour. Then you go past Glenallachie, and then you're heading south there. You're going past the junction point that you can take across the Corona Bridge there, and go toward Tamdhu, KnocKando, Cardew, all those distilleries kind of in that little on the other side of the river. We were heading to Glenfarclas, so we had to stay on the east side of the river, but unless you got a map, this doesn't mean much to you. But going over and looking at Tamdhu, beautiful setting, beautiful area next to the river. And the Spey River is just a beautiful river. It's a beautiful valley. And there you have Tamdhu, just up the way is KnocKando. And all these distilleries were on the railway, and that helped them survive in the early days. So 1897, this was created. Now, because I have the video on the history and all that stuff, I'm going to stop it there. And we are going to get this thing opened up. I want you to take a look at this guy here. It's quite an elegant looking model, and there it is. So natural color, and you can see it is a dark color. I have had the 12, and I had the 18 when I was in Scotland. I was actually impressed with that. Let's do the honors. Oh, we can do better than that. We can do better than that. That's maybe a little bit better. Okay, we'll give her the pour. And we'll take a peek at it. Tamdhu 15-year-old. A whiskey that you'll be seeing more of, that nobody had heard of, you know, a few years back before Ian Cloud Distillers took over. So like what they're doing with Glengoyne, which is working a lot with sherry cask and their connections with the people in Rothes, Spain, where they get their cask built. They use both, they bring over American wood, I think it comes from Kentucky. So you got your American oak, and then you've got your northern Spanish oak there, or we call it European oak. It's anyways, they are using both casks. We know that the American oak has a milder presentation, and we know that the European oak is a lot spicier. So American oak might be a little softer. You got your sweet notes and all that, where you're going to get the complexities and all the layers and the spiciness from your European oak. Working with both, I think you create an interesting formula. So we're going to let this guy sit for, 15-20 minutes. I've got a video. If you don't want to watch the video, you can always scroll ahead for the review, but I think you will enjoy it. And we'll see you when you get back. A group of successful whiskey blenders decided to take advantage of the late 19th century whiskey boom, and by 1897 they had built the most modern distillery in Scotland. This group was led by William Grant, the owner of Glenfiddich and Balvenie distilleries, who was a director at Highland Distillers and on the board of the Elgin Bank. They had hired the famous architect and engineer Charles Doig to design the most efficient distillery of that era. Only 2 years later, due to economic pressures, Highland Distillers, which is today Edrington, had purchased Tamdhu. Highland Distillers kept it running for the next 28 years through the ups and downs in the whiskey industry, and then closed Tamdhu down in 1927 for 21 years. In 1948, Tamdhu was reopened and 2 years later was rebuilt. The old floor maltings were replaced with 10 efficient Saladin boxes, each capable of holding 22 tons of malt. This meant they could supply their excess malt to other distilleries. The old Strathspey Railway that ran along the River Spey to many distilleries like Tamdhu had the rail lifted in 1969 and has now become part of the Speyside Way, a famous walking and cycling route. Tamdhu had good growth in the 70s, adding 4 more stills to their original pair. The whiskey has been exclusively used for Edrington's blends, and other than a few independent bottlings, very few distillery bottlings were available. In the 90s, most of the Tamdhu whiskey was being filled into Edrington's bespoke ex-sherry casks. Unexpectedly, Edrington mothballed Tamdhu in 2010, but 2 years later, Ian McLeod Distillers had purchased it. They have kept their focus on full sherry maturation and today have a 12, 15, and 18-year-old whiskey to offer in their core range. Sandy McIntyre, who had been with Diageo, took over as the new distillery manager when Sandy Coots retired after an incredible 40 years at Tamdhu. The clear soft water to make the whiskey comes from the Tamdhu Spring borehole. The old Saladin boxes are no longer used, so 220 tons of Laureate and Concerto malted barley are trucked in every week. The new avocado paint is hiding the original and traditional red color on the ancient Porteous mill. After the Porteous mill creates the grist, there are 18 mashes a week in the 12-ton stainless steel semi-loader mash tun. This produces a clear, fruity wort.
They use Moray creamed yeast for the fermentation, which lasts 59 hours in 9 Oregon pine washbacks that are each 53,500 litres. Stainless steel would be less maintenance, but the new owners prefer wood for the microorganisms it produces that create more flavour. The beer washes around 9 to 10% ABV. It then travels to the 3 22,500 litre wash stills and then is cooled by the copper and shell tube condensers. These low wines are around 25%, and they travel to the 3 18,600 litre spirit stills for that final distillation. The 4 size stills all have the same onion shape with a slight decline in the lin arm angle. The middle cutoff points at the spirit safe are somewhere between 75 and 66% ABV. The distillation strength is reduced at the filling station from 70.5% to 63.5% ABV. Ian MacLeod distillers fully mature their whiskies in Oloroso sherry casks from Rothes, Spain that have been seasoned for 2 years. Tamdhu stores its single malt whiskies in their older dunnage warehouses, but has a large number of racked warehouses for other companies' whiskies. They now have an in-house cooperage to maintain their large number of sherry oak casks. Tamdhu Distillery no longer has a visitor centre, but has been open for 3 days for exclusive tours and tastings during the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival.
Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's get into this nose. Tamdhu 15. Lots of fruit and chocolate and berries, currants, black currants, and raspberries, blackberries. It's berry cordial. And cinnamon. Cinnamon, here comes the orange. Got some chocolate notes, dark chocolate notes. And a little bit of coffee coming in here. A very, very strong nose on this. Let's get into the palate and see if we can carry on with the nose. Lots of sherry, I got a feeling. So, Salangeva. I'm going to say it's a taste I'm familiar with, yet it is unique. Bit of an oxymoron there, eh? The sherry is there, that's all I'm going to say. Almost like an old Macallan's is really what it reminds me of. Very much like an old Macallan's, yeah. A little bit of Glengoyne maybe even showing up here, but yeah, Macallan's. A little bit of Macallan's. A little bit of ginger. Slight bit of nutmeg. I'm going to carry on right now for the development and the finish. Salangeva. Boy, even some Aberlour going on here. Somewhere between Aberlour and Macallan's. So the spices are there. Finish is definitely a medium long. Wee bit of wood going on here. Not a lot of bitterness though. The slight astringency at the most is. It's very palatable drink. And that's how I remember the. This is like an amplified 12, I would say. I'm going to be doing a comparison of the two of them. Interesting. Macallan's own this company here. They own Glengoyne, and these folks are going to. I think they're kicking them in the butt. Yeah, they're kicking Edrington in the butt because this is a lot more affordable than a Macallan's. So I have Macallan's. I've got two 15s back here, and they're over $300 here in Canada. This is not a $300 whiskey. This is in the 165-ish, somewhere in that range, 160, 165 in Canada. This one is, there's a lot of resemblance. So with them getting the casks in Spain, really paying attention to these casks, 6 years it takes to build these casks, you know, and then of course having to fill them and at least 2 years, minimum of 2 years to be seasoned with sherry that's 6-7 years old. I am going to add just a slight bit of water to this, and let's see where it goes with water. But this thing's got it's kicking butt right now. I'm impressed. Not too much there. I don't think we need a lot in this. I'm going to get right into the palate with water. Cilantro. The water, a little bit of sweetness, but it also gave it some tartness. And I'm actually tasting sherry, really. There's body to this. I've added, you know, I don't know how many drops. I got a little carried away. I think I put 4 drops. Didn't hurt it though. There's still a lot of body to this. Nice coating on my mouth. Even now, I'd say it's still the medium long finish. So it's very rich. It's kind of like you've got this sherry influence, but you've got a lot of Christmas cake, fruit, you know, and it's mixed fruit. It's a mixed basket. Almond, a bit of almond roca coming on now, and the chocolate. You know, chocolate, still in the dark chocolate. I mentioned the coffee. I would look at this at least as an 87. Age of this is deceptive because if it's 15, it could be a 16, it could be a 17. It's good casks, very good casks. So I'm going to leave that one with you. Let's stay with the 87. I think that's a fair score for it. And on that note, I am going to ask you to drink wisely, drink intelligently, and do not drink and drive. Until the next time, so long, you.